What is going on, people? It is me, JC, one of the best reactors on YouTube. So I decided to catch up on My Hero Academia. I was around 20 chapters behind. So I just like, you know what? After the Star and Stripe situation and how that whole thing ended, I was like, I'm going to drop the series for a little bit, get my mind off of it so I'm not so angry, then come back to it and just see if I still feel the same way about the series. So there are three major fights that are going on. Dabi versus Shoto. You have Endeavor and Hawks versus All For One. Then you have a whole group of people, including Bakugo, Best Jeanist, and everybody else, versus Shigaraki. And Deku is on the way. That is something that is a prevalent theme going on in this whole thing. Now, if we had an overarching thing, we'll say that this is the typical shonen, because once you think you want to fight, you really didn't want to fight. Let's talk about first Shoto versus Dabi. We have father issues versus I'm trying to be the best hero I could be, and I just happen to be my father's greatest experiment that happened, and I'm trying to outlive that, trying to be better than my father, be the best hero. It was two people having complexes that I guess were, in my opinion, overdone. Like Dabi, I get it. Your father, you hate him. You weren't good enough for him. Endeavor has tried to atone for that. He's cried over that. But Dabi's like, look, you over here, I hate my father, but you are the perfect one. So I have to beat you because you're his perfect creation. And Shoto's, I'm here to stop you. And I understand what our father did, but I went through my own struggles. And I went through my own like shit to be a hero. And even though we thought of him as one of the top 3 of the class, he thought of himself as everybody else ahead of him, which is kind of weird, but it's understandable at the same time. But after Shoto defeats Dabi, we think it's over. And once again, of course, the shonen, it's not over. The villains will come back stronger. You have to go through more. Now let's go to Hawks, Endeavor, All For One. That fight is going on, and somehow you press the Dabi button. All For One talks about Dabi again and how he was the one who basically took his body and made him who he is, and Endeavor goes crazy and Hawks is somehow crippled. I forgot about that whole situation. And Endeavor gets taken out of the fight for a while, and it's just Hawks by himself. Prosthetic feathers he's using, so he's not as fast as he used to be. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, how are they getting out of the situation? I thought it's gonna be Hawks and Endeavor, but then he brings Tsukiyomi. I'm not gonna lie to you. The girl with the ears that controls sound and everything, can't remember her name, wasn't a very big character in the series for me that I really cared about. She had a couple cool moments. Those two show up. Are they of any help? Not really, if we're being honest. Like, it was the fact that All For One wasn't the strongest version of himself, so he split himself apart, and his main version, his main part is with Shigaraki from what I'm understanding. So his quirks that he controls are rebelling against him, and that was the only reason that he was supposedly losing. So when Endeavor finally gets there, after, you know, they do all these attacks, matter of fact, All For One said that, earplug girl, you whatever your name is, I'm so sorry, but your attacks are doing literally nothing right now. You're just a nuisance. You're in the way. Tsukiyomi had one good hit that cracked his mask, which was cool in the grand scheme of things. And then Endeavor did his thing. Look, Endeavor finally came back. He did his thing. Lots of attacks, lots of flashy, lots of hot attacks. He literally basically bear hugs him and burns him to death. Now, once again, this is a shonen, and nothing is ever as it seems. The enemy will come back. Somehow, they took Eri's quirk and repurposed it to somehow make All For One go back to his prime body. Now, the great thing about this is the fact that All For One will die. This version of him, this half of himself will die, but He's gonna be his prime self for a little bit, and once he runs through his energy, he's gonna die. Great, because I couldn't stand for Deku to have to go through a prime all for one and a Shigaraki / all for one mix. That'd have been done, but that fight is once again happening all over again. Now let's go to the Shigaraki side, the third fight. Bakugo did his thing. Don't get me wrong, Bakugo did his thing. He was calculated. He had a new move set he was using, storing up the sweat beads that he ignites. It was very cool, but at the very end of the day, his right arm was destroyed. Somehow his heart is gone. Either it's shredded to pieces or it's gone. He's gonna be brought back to life. That's a whole nother story. The big three, including the Million and the big three, doing the best that they can to somehow stall until Deku gets there. Did it do anything in the grand scheme of things? No. Here's one of the things that bothers me so much about Shigaraki / All For One, whoever, and his third counterpart that is somehow worried about if he has friends or not, his actual self, which was very weird to come up with. And then maybe that's going to be the part of Deku talk no jutsus himself and somehow ends up winning this fight because of that. But he is still not able to use any of his quirks. His body is strong as steel right now. He is as strong as All Might is currently. Basically All Might. And those aren't his quirks. He's able to grow appendages, mouths, limbs, fingers at an accelerated rate, a superhuman accelerated rate. And this is not a quirk. Like, he is severely broken. Deku currently would still have a hard time beating him if he was there with no quirks currently. And I'm supposed to believe that when he gets his quirks back, he's going to. You best believe he's going to get his quirks back, because they're not going to let Deku versus Shigaraki happen with no quirks. That's not going to happen. Deku's going to have to somehow tap into his full abilities without, killing himself doing it. But somehow, after all this happens, the heroes are being defeated by a quirkless Shigaraki. Somehow, the ninja is going to sacrifice his life to somehow bring Bakugo back to life, somehow mend his heart back together, sacrificing himself. But my question is, will his right arm be mended? Will this give him some sort of power up? Will he still be damaged but somehow still be alive? Like, Horikoshi, you got so much. Like, the plot armor in this entire like 20 chapters I read is thick. And I just don't know if you're gonna be able to put all this together, wrap it up in a nice bow for people to say, okay, My Hero Academia at the end of the day was a top tier series. Would I recommend reading it? For the most part, yes. Would I recommend reading these last 20 chapters? Of course. But it's not without its flaws. It's not without me looking at it sometimes and be like, man, like, really? What are we doing here? At the same time, still somewhat enjoyable. All right, guys, that's it for me. At the end of the day, My Hero Academia, these last couple chapters, maybe last 15 to 20, it was like 7.5 to 8 out of 10 for me. But at the same time, I've just kind of looked at it like, all right, hopefully, I'm just hoping you have good faith it's gonna be good. All right, that's it for me. I'm done. Could be anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that, guys. So I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.